Continuing on this episode of the program, a conversation on allegations of corruption in the judiciary vis-a-vis the working conditions of judges. We speak to a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, senior advocate of Nigeria, Augustine Allegation, on these and other issues. Also showing on the program, other senior lawyers assess the new cabinet and speak about key judiciary reforms. Plus a recap of the top trending legal stories in the news. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Shola Shoyeli. My guest, the former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Augustine Allegation, insists that the judiciary is not as corrupt as many people think. He was reacting to a question I asked about the recent outburst of the chairman of the Kano State National and State Houses of Assembly Election Petitions Tribunal, Justice Flora Azinge, who said in open court that a senior advocate of Nigeria who has a pending case before her was attempting to corrupt the tribunal. Although there have since been some attempts to modify that outburst, Mr. Allegation believes that the very fact that there was an outburst speaks volumes about the fact that there are many more upright judges.
I have heard about that case, and I do not think we should be too critical of the judge. When you are faced with such issues, it's difficult to know exactly how to proceed. However, we should encourage her to name whoever has approached her, if the approach was made directly to her. And if the approach was not made directly to her, to at least make it clear what has transpired. It is very good that she's put it out there. Her putting it out there makes it clear to everybody, those who are offering the bribe, that she's not going to collect a bribe. So for that she said it in public, it's good. But she could make it better by stating who and in what circumstance this has happened. I've always advocated for clarity and for referrals. If the judge was approached directly and she has sufficient evidence, then she could make a referral. She could come into court and say, I was approached by Mr. So-and-so, and I consider his conduct to be unprofessional, and I'm referring him to the disciplinary committee of the NBA. And she could send her proceedings to them to say, this is what transpired, and this is the step I'm taking. But all in all, I think this story shows that we have good and honest judges. This talk that every judge has a prize has been debunked by her action. And I believe whoever offered the bribe through whatever medium, through whatever source or courier, is now aware that the judge who sent the money to not take any money. I wish more judges will come out when they are approached and say, I don't come near me with money. It will help. It may not solve the problem, but it will help.
What will solve the problem?
You know, I always say that the challenges in the judiciary are not unique. Nothing is unique to any country. So you ask yourself, how have the problem been solved in different countries? How? And in most countries, you have the gatekeeper as the one responsible for ensuring that there's no corruption. And who's the gatekeeper? Is the judge. In Kenya, they introduced a system whereby they did not look for, first of all, I believe, if I recollect correctly, there's a threshold of gifts or acquisition that any judge makes, he must declare. You don't have to wait from when you're appointed one declaration, when you are leaving another one. No. You acquire anything while you are in service, you must declare. And they have what they call a lifestyle audit for judges, which is run periodically. So they don't wait for you became a judge at 50 and you made a declaration, then when you leave at 70, you make 20 years. So they've done that. And secondly, they introduced what I have been advocating for. Let's just look at the judgment. If your judgment does not accord with law, we must read corruption into it. Because whether it is indolence, ignorance, or corruption, the effect is the same. So let's look at the judgments. Let's get an ombudsman. And if I have a complaint that this judgment does not follow the trend of the law, the ombudsman looks at it. But if you give bribe, it will show in the judgment. Whatever you do, it will show in the judgment. So the man writing the judgment is the gatekeeper. So we need to look at our judges and the judgments that they give. And when we see judgments that don't make sense, then we need to start to deal with the problem from that end. And when that happens, then when you offer the judge a bribe to turn the law on his head, and the judge is 65 years, he has 5 years to go, then he has to be sure that the amount you are offering him will cover more than 5 years' salary, will deal with his pension. You understand? So you increase the stakes. So the man giving becomes also worried. If I give so much for a high court, like the tribunal they're talking about now, from that tribunal there's a court of appeal, there's still Supreme Court. So how much will I give? And yes, and every person along the line will start to say, no, I don't want to get involved. I don't want my name. And I also believe that we need to, as I've said, to reform the discipline of lawyers. We also need to reform the discipline of judges. I do not support the situation where lawyers that discipline, judges can participate, but when it comes to judges, only judges can participate. In other countries, they have opened it that you can say there's a particular body that disciplines judges. That body could be made up of industry users, legal industry users. Why can the president of ICANN, why can the president of NMA, National, why can't we have representatives of such bodies? They also use the system. They also interact with the courts. So let them come and listen to, because the scope that lawyers are a cabal, sons are a cabal, they will protect each other. What of the judges? Don't they protect each other? So you find that the case has to be extremely bad. They are doing well, but I'm saying that given the way our difficulty in the judiciary is affecting our national growth and development, we have to take multiple steps, tighten up the lawyers and tighten up the judicial end of judges. But in all of this, Jesus had 12 disciples, just one. So we have good judges, we have very good lawyers, upright, but we also have some bad eggs. Like they say, a drop of water, a drop of oil will soil a gallon of water. So that's the challenge we have.
Staying with the judiciary, in the last 1 month alone, the judiciary has lost about 5 justices. And, this again brings to the fore the issue about the conditions and their welfare, the conditions under which they work. Do you think that the country is doing enough? Or what more do you think we should be doing?
Shala, when you say what more needs to be done, you assume that something is being done.
I don't want to believe that we've been...
I don't share that sentiment. I believe that look at the last embarrassment we had when Supreme Court justices,
the infamous letter.
Yes, had to come out. We miss the problem that letter portrays. It shows that from top to bottom. And what has happened? Are you sure anything has changed? Because if it's the same system we're running, that we're still running. For one, after the O.J. Simpson trial, I got interested in how it was possible for that trial to run, and by the next day, everybody had the transcript. In every arbitration I've done in the last 20 years, we have a court recorder. We now have video recording from court, which is even compressed. You leave court in the morning, in 2 hours, you have this transcript certified of the court record. Our judges are writing in longhand. Our courts are not air-conditioned. The courts in the Federal High Court in Lagos, an embarrassment. And you think of the judges who are made to work in such conditions. So we are talking of quality of life. How long do you spend at home and how long do you spend in the office? So they leave home, say 8 o'clock or 7:30, get to court at 8, clear their table, they sit till 4, 5, they get back home at 6. They spend the whole day in an unhealthy environment. How much are they paid? Pittance. So we haven't even started, we haven't even scratched the surface. We need to, there are judges who don't have computers. There are judges who don't have laptops. You know, so, and then it all plays into other things. If you don't have good conditions of service, you can't expect good quality of work. So it's all intertwined, and we think that it is something that government needs to take emergency steps.
Declare a state of emergency.
Yes, in that regard, to address. It's not just salary. I mean, let's look at Lagos. They're doing very well in Lagos. If it was the House of Assembly that got burnt when the Judiciary High Court got burnt, will it still be down by now? No. If it was governor's office that got burnt, it would have been up. Have you gone to the courts in Osborn Phase 2? And this is Lagos. So if this is Lagos, start to imagine how it is in other parts. So we all look at the salary, the cars they don't get and all that. But there are inherent working conditions where they work in. If you go to the Federal High Court here, you see the heaps of files, the dust.
Take over the courts.
Yes, so we need to do a lot more for our judges, for the entire judicial system.
Who has to lead that process? The Attorney General of the Federation?
It's not a process that should be left to one person or one arm of government. Well, if Attorney General leads the fight and the legislature do not vote the money, he gets stuck. If the executive as a whole doesn't get interested, we get stuck. If the judges themselves are not interested, at times we find that people resist what is good for them. A corrupt judge will not want you getting his transcript every day. So that's why I say it's not for the Attorney General. There has to be collective effort. The judiciary must be open to receive new ideas. The executive must be willing to fund sufficiently because they are the ones that do the budget for the judiciary. And the legislature must support by voting the money required for all these things to be put in place. If we put the right things in place, things will get better.
Let's round up talking about the situation in Niger. I know there's been so many interventions calling for diplomatic options. How are you reading that?
You know, the root of all countries is democracy. So everybody wants democracy. But democracy has evolved in various ways in various countries. Take Egypt. They had the Arab Spring, and they got a very popular president who was now termed to be a fundamentalist or something, and he got overthrown, and the military took over, and the military converted to civilian. So each country needs to grow based on its own peculiar challenges. The people of Niger have their own peculiar challenges, different from our own challenges. So we need to hear them out. We need to have a dialogue. We need to talk with them. Their sovereignty cannot be compromised. We cannot determine for Niger what is good for them. But we know that democracy must be in Niger. So we need to reason it out with them and find a solution to the problem. I have a feeling that he is more interested in dialogue. Probably the talk of an invasion is to let them know that we have another option. But without question, dialogue is the solution, and we must all appreciate in the dialogue.
Thanks for staying tuned. Two senior advocates have shared with Law Weekly their impressions about President Bola Tinubu's new cabinet, and especially the role of the new Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice.
Well, I seriously have my doubts whether it's round pegs in round holes. I see a lot of politics at play, a lot of thank you for supporting, thank you for doing a good job in the elections and all of that. It's just, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of job for the boys. There are very few that you could say are worthy, as far as I'm concerned. That's my very firm view. Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, is a senior advocate known for his integrity and very noble mien. I must concede that to him. But at a time like this, the question is, what do we need at the Federal Ministry of Justice at a time like this? We clearly need justice sector reforms. It is a crying and pressing need. If we want a better Nigeria, we need to do things differently, especially in the justice sector. The future of Nigeria, the success of Nigeria in future, it rests squarely on the justice sector. Because if we get the justice sector right, like a lot of things will fall into play. Power and justice, as far as I'm concerned. So with Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, the reformer we need, I pray he can metamorphose into that role. I know he has the capacity to. I pray he can metamorphose into that role. Having served in the office of Attorney General previously myself, I know that to do reform and the success at it will depend a lot on the mindset of the executive. The president we have today was once a state governor, and he did a lot of justice sector reform using the previous vice president, who was Attorney General, Mr. Yemi Osinbajo. And they did a lot of reform in the justice sector. If this characterization, if this mindset is brought into the federal, then Mr. Lateef Fagbemi will succeed in bringing about justice sector reform if he is inclined to and sees the need so to do.
Let me start by saying that the cabinet is a mixed grill. Some candidates that we believe will deliver. Some have simply just been recycled, particularly some of the governors who have done 8 years in their states and now just given this position. So for me, I would say the Attorney General, of course, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, is the right choice, and the expectations are high given his reputation and what we all know about his sterling qualities. So we have no doubt whatsoever that he will succeed and he will do well. However, he's an appointee of a government, of a president, so we also expect that he will fit into a system that will allow him to do what is required for the reform of the justice system. And I believe the issues are well known. Congestion in the court, consistent disobedience to orders of court, particularly by government. I mean, we've seen now, we've been talking about Rashid Bawa, who has been kept in detention, and I don't think there's any justification. We've also seen what has happened with the CBN governor back and forth. the issue of the DSS so we're expecting that when he assumes office, he will be able to set, the right tone that is not going to be business as usual, particularly for agencies of government to flout orders of court. And I believe that's the key issue. The other aspect also has to do with the re-engineering that the justice sector requires. It's not just a matter of the more judges. It's also not about equipping the court. I think it's about every one of us understanding the essence of justice delivery for every citizen. So it doesn't really matter whether you are the richest person or you are the lowest rung of the ladder. If you've been wrong one way or the other, the justice system should give you your due. And I believe that should be a part of what the Attorney General should do for us.
And just before we go, let's quickly do a recap of some of the top trending stories from the courtroom.
We begin with the report that the Court of Appeal sitting in Benin City, the Edo State capital, has affirmed Mr. Julius Abure as the national chairman of the Labour Party. In the case of Mr. Loke Shaibu versus Julius Abure and 5 others, the 3-man panel, in a unanimous decision, dismissed the appeal of the appellant. In his lead judgment, Justice Teresa Abadoa affirmed the decision of the High Court of Edo State and held that one man cannot suspend the national chairman of the Labour Party in line with Article 13 and 17 of the Constitution of the party, particularly when the appellant has been described by the party as unknown. The court unanimously nullified the earlier suspension and all actions taken against Mr. Abure and the party arising from the purported suspension. In Abuja, an FCT High Court presided over by Justice Hamza Muazu has fixed August the 23rd for the arraignment of the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, and his co-accused, Sadatu Yaro, an employee of the Central Bank. The court fixed the date following the absence of Yaro, who was said to have taken ill just before the planned arraignment of August the 17th. The suspended CBN governor, who was present in court, was charged alongside Yaro and her company, April 1616 Investment Limited, on a 20-count charge bordering on procurement fraud, conspiracy and conferring corrupt advantages on his associates to the tune of 6.9 billion naira. While that was going on in Abuja, the Federal High Court in Lagos struck out the illegal possession of firearm charge against the suspended Central Bank of Nigeria governor, Godwin Emefiele, following an application by the Ministry of Justice to withdraw it. Justice Nicholas Uwebo struck out the charge after holding that the prosecution had the statutory power to withdraw a charge against a defendant at any stage of the trial. Justice Uwebo, in a short ruling, also condemned the conduct of the prosecution. In allowing the withdrawal of the charge, the judge wondered what good it will do to the defense if the court did not allow the application. He noted that the federal government had shown that they are not law-abiding and have no respect for the court. To stop the embarrassment of the court and to keep its integrity intact, the judge said that the proper thing was to allow the prosecution withdraw the charge, as they could simply abandon it and force the court to strike it out for lack of diligent prosecution. To tribunal matters, the Court of Appeal Abuja has restored the vote-buying allegations made by the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and its governorship candidate, Oladipupo Adebutu, against Governor Dapo Abiodun of the All Progressives Congress. The appeal was against the ruling of Justice Hamidu Kanuza of the Ogun State Governorship Tribunal delivered on vote buying during the March 18th governorship election in the state. The tribunal had ruled in favor of Governor Abiodun and struck out Mr. Adebutu's reply to Governor Abiodun's reply to the petition. The Court of Appeal judgment was written by Justice Mohammed Idris and read by Justice Ali Waziri. The judgment sustained certain paragraphs of Mr. Adebutu and the PDP's reply to Governor Abiodun's response. The sustained paragraphs of the petitioner's reply border on the submission of forged certificate to INEC by Governor Dapo Abiodun, violence and disruption of polling units by agents of the governor, allegedly, and allegations of vote buying. And we round off in Abuja, still at the Court of Appeal, the move by Senator Smart Adeyemi to nullify the primary election of the APC in Kogi State, which produced Usman Ododo as the party flag bearer for the state governorship election slated for November 11, has been dismissed. In a unanimous judgment of a 3-man panel, the court held that the appeal was completely bereft of merit And Mr. Adeyemi, who recently represented Kogi West Senatorial District in the Senate, was said to have failed woefully to establish all grievous criminal allegations made against the conduct of the primary election by APC and its leaders. Justice Mohammed Lawal Shoaib, who delivered the lead judgment, resolved all the three issues in dispute against Mr. Adeyemi. Justice Shoaib said that the allegations of manipulations and falsifications of the primary election results made by Mr. Adeyemi, being criminal in nature, ought to have been proven beyond reasonable doubt as required by law.
And that's the program for today. If you missed any part of it, you can find it in past episodes on our YouTube channel. Do also give us feedback via any of our social media platforms. I'm Shola Shoyele. Thank you for watching and see you next week.